So, what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
That leads us over to the most important question. Vince, where does Mom and Dad from 2017 rate on your Cageometer?
All right. I'm going to give this one a 7. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. We picked apart some of the plot issues, especially in the third act with the kids going into the basement and staying down there. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty well told story. Entertaining, funny as hell. Was not expecting it to be as funny as it was. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. I'm just going to take what I got. So I'll give the film a 7 out of 7.
I do think it was intentional.
I hope so. But you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean, it's listed as a black comedy, so.
Yeah, but is that what they were really going for originally?
Yeah, who knows? Based on the Crank guy's background, yes, I do think it was intentionally comedy.
True. So I think it was really good. I thought it was, well, it wasn't really good. It was good. It was better than I thought it was going to be. So I'll give it a 7. As far as Cage, same. I'm going to give him a 7. I think had he not been so over the top in the film, I do not think it would have been as enjoyable. So obviously this is no pig caliber acting, but I think it fit, his caginess fit the tone of the movie, fit the tone of that character, and made me enjoy the film a lot more. Especially because sometimes the other actors were just given very paper thin performances, and then he'd come in, do something crazy, and it kind of brought me back to enjoying the movie. Yeah, so I'll give him a 7. You know, I think it's fair for both movie and film. 7. Not great, but not as awful as I was expecting it to be. Based off of the gentleman that helmed the writing and directing. So 7s.
Yeah, where did we settle on Spirit of Vengeance? Like a 1.3 or something like that?
Oh, it was low, yeah. I think it's our worst rated film.
No, Arsenal.
So.
Arsenal now.
Oh, yeah.
Rated film.
Well, yeah. Up until Arsenal, it was
was Arsenal 1s all across the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think Cage got more than a 1. I think he got like a 2 something.
Yeah. I think we were generous to him. Yeah.
All right, Nigel, where does Mom and Dad rate on your Cageometer?
I don't think I liked it as much as you guys did. I thought it was an okay movie. I liked the premise a lot. Surprisingly, I didn't think that the subject matter was what kind of turned me off from it. It was sort of everything else, the execution of it. Even looking at it like a black comedy, I thought it was pretty stupid. And like from a technical side of things, we talked about it. The music's kind of not great. It looks like it's shot on a DSLR, and the editing is really questionable in some points, and there's some parts, and there's some weird shots that get interjected in there that just kind of feel amateurish. So like, and then the characters are paper thin. They don't act how normal people would act, which I guess is a horror trope, but I don't really like horror movies that much unless there's something different like Mandy or Color Out of Space. Even I liked that one, but I gave it a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's a terrible movie. I did enjoy a couple of scenes a lot more than the rest of the movie. Like we mentioned, the whole basement scene flashback with the pool table, it felt like it's lifted out of a better movie. I thought I really enjoyed that part of it. And that kind of got to the crux of one of the themes that they were playing at, is that midlife crisis and that feeling of losing your identity. Once you have kids, you just become mom and dad, and that's all it is. And it's at odds with how we are as humans. We want to feel like individuals and feel like our lives matter and that we do something. And part of that is your kids. And it's like Kendall says, like, you know, we do everything for you guys. You guys are our lives. And that's why it hurts when she's like, well, I'm sorry you don't have any life. You know, I have my own friends now. I'm sorry you don't have a life. Because when you're a parent, you do just basically sacrifice yourself to some extent for that. And your kids won't know it until they're older and they have their own kids that they realize that. So yeah, I thought that it was surprisingly smart of an idea and themes coming from the crank guy. So I don't want to be too hard on him as much as I hated Spirit of Vengeance, but I mean, this is a better movie, and this is I think it's just his directing choices don't jive well with me, but and the writing could have been better, like you said. The dialogue for pretty much all the kid characters and the adults trying to act like kids is not that great.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, as a black comedy horror movie, I think it's pretty good. But yeah, I just gave it a 5, kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Or Cage's performance did elevate it a bit. I'll give him a 7 out of 10 as well. Like we said, this sort of brought him out of that funk of being post-Ghost, Spirit of Ghost Rider up to Mom and Dad. He was kind of on that low point for a lot of these movies, and I think I can see why that one reviewer said, take all of it. You know, I can't exactly agree with her, but take all of these performances of Nick Cage in the past and combine them together, and it's still not as, whatever she said, it still doesn't equate to what he reaches in this movie. But I can see how it could remind people what Nick Cage can be capable of when he's completely unhinged and just becomes really fun to watch when he sort of just lets it go and swings for the fences and just over the top ridiculousness. So yeah, I can see why it brought him out of that funk, brought kind of the audience remembered what he was like, and got him some more jobs in the future where he could kind of get out of his low period in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's a little more over the top in some of the scenes than the movie deserves, but also, again, don't think too much about it. It's a black comedy that's designed to be kind of taken not seriously, so having him in there is enjoyable to watch, and a lot of the crazy stuff that he does. And like you said, this has some of the cagiest moments of any of the movies that we've seen. Because he was allowed to just do it, and it's like, why not do it in this movie? It warrants it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the fact that he had fun came through in the performance. You could see he's enjoying himself.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that the smashing the pool, his lines while he's smashing the pool table was all improv, but I can see that now. But it felt really real. It felt heartfelt as he was doing it. You could have felt that breakdown.
The tail end, I think, was part of the script, but like when he's doing the hokey pokey and all that shit.
Yeah, but it really sells that snap. He's just like that. That was it. This was something that he was looking forward to, kind of holding on to that old self, trying to recapture that youth, and then his wife kind of crushes it, and he overreacts to it. But it really sells that. Oh my God, this guy's kind of a psycho. Like I think what he's saying, everybody kind of associates with and empathizes with, but the way that he reacts is not how everybody would. But it's also a very Cagean reaction. So they got some good stuff out of him for this movie, and it fits the character.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I kind of split the difference on my Cageometer. I gave the movie a 6. I really have a hard time giving credit to the Spirit of Vengeance guy, but like he came up with a really great concept. He did write this movie, wrote and directed the movie. The thing I don't like about his movies is like the choices in the edit, like the split screens, the weird shots, the sped up stuff, the color grade, the grain. I feel like he kind of makes an ugly movie, and it feels amateur. The music, the Mr. Bill music was fucking terrible. That song that Riley is listening to in the class is just like, I'm not even gonna say what. Like the lyrics are just like, what the fuck? Like, why did you? I don't know. Anyways, there's like one black character in this whole movie, and you see these white kids in suburbia listening to whatever the fuck that was. It just felt weird. I felt like, a lot of the characters were not super well developed, but I didn't feel like it hurt it just because, like I said, like there are horror tropes. We've seen these characters a million times. I thought the editing, aside from the stupid crank guy choices, was fairly well put together. I felt like it was streamed together nicely. The one cut of Cage looking up at his hand and then smacking down with, like, they felt like two very different shots, but somehow it worked beautifully together. jumping over to Cage, I feel like the movie works because of how cagey he is, but at the same time, it does not fit like a normal suburban house dad at all. And like it's so over the top at points that I had to give him a 6 just because I waffled between a 7 and a 6 because his performance is kind of like Vampire's Kiss, where like his performance and I guess more Deadfall, because like Deadfall the movie was terrible, but his crazy over the top fucking character and the way that he performed it, and like we talked about on our Deadfall episode, he came up with pretty much every nuance of that character. That's what made the movie interesting and kept you going along with it. And maybe I'm being harsh with a 6, but I felt like he was a little too cagey at moments, especially at the beginning when he was supposed to be just a dad. But, while we were talking about it, we kind of discussed maybe he's already being affected by this, but like his like, or whatever with the little kid at the beginning, and his whole thing with like, respect your mom or she'll kill you.
Yeah.
And then like the thing with the soccer ball bouncing off his head where he stared at the kid like he was going to murder him for a second, which I guess tracks because he's like a suburban dad and he wants to be out of this life. But at the same time, he still loves his kids. So he snaps back into reality of like, I don't know. But we were just foreshadowing what was going to happen later on. The pool table thing was just fucking insane, but totally makes sense. Like you said, he just wanted something for himself and he couldn't even have that. So he just fucking loses it and way overreacts. But I could see that actually happening. I could see myself doing something like that if I was in a similar situation where I just really wanted something of my own, but my nagging wife wouldn't let me have it. It would never happen in my relationship, but
Is she in the house? Run.
But yeah, overall, I thought the movie was solid. I can't give it like higher marks just because it does have its flaws, but I think it is a great kind of return to form and a bright spot in the midst of all of those direct-to-video things. But Joe and The Trust were also really nice bright spots in there. I'm wondering how many more of these we're going to run across where it's like expected the movie to be terrible, but then it was great. I mean, this movie had everything going against it, like direct-to-video Cage, the fucking crank guy wrote and directed it. It's a horror movie that's 86 minutes long. You look at that runtime and you're like, oh, this is gonna be bad. There's gonna be no character development. There's gonna be nothing stringing this thing together, but it works. It works really well. I love the third act so much, especially when Lance Henriksen shows up.
It's a highlight for sure.
It just makes me laugh so much. The movie in general is hilarious, and I think that's really if you just come at it as like this is a fucking hilarious dark comedy, you'll love the hell out of this thing. But as a horror movie, I don't know if it fully hits all the check boxes.